coming in from Otto, is from Ukraine. Say, don't you guys think it is impressive that you guys started realizing the scale of Russian influence only now? You are 15 years too late. This might be also an issue in terms of Kamala on foreign policy, but I'll give you each a chance to respond to this.
Yeah, Russian intrusion is obviously a huge problem in our country. It has been for 10 years. But again, conservatives are literally brain broken on this topic and they cannot engage with it whatsoever. And they would rather screech and scream about the hook-nosed guy running AIPAC than they would about actual people in other countries that are trying to destroy the United States and our ability to have any kind of discourse here. You've seen it with bots that are spread like crazy across Twitter. You've seen it recently with the indictments that came out over Tenet Media. You saw it with the Mueller indictments for the Internet Research Agency and all of the other social media accounts that he exposed. We've seen it over and over and over and over again. But again, as soon as you bring up Russia, people's minds on the conservative side immediately, break in half.
Yeah, we spent about $32 million on that Mueller investigation that didn't actually result in any sort of Russian interference or meddling in our elections. They instead uncovered people that maybe weren't exactly honest to Congress. So there was some obstruction of justice or lying under oath that they ended up getting people for. But we really haven't actually gone and found this massive Russian interference in our elections.
Are you? Hold on. Wait. Real quick, wait. Do you think that any indictments really came from the Mueller investigation?
Like I said, the indictments that came, were any of them because of Russian meddling?
Yes.
That there was actual direct Russian.
Yes.
Who was indicted for Russian meddling?
There were 12 indictments made for Russian nationals that ran a company in the United States called the Internet Research Agency that came from the Mueller investigations.
And the Mueller investigation concluded that they didn't really have much of an influence.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all.
There was any real true influence in our elections.
Okay, that's great if we just make stuff up. But hold on, to be clear, wait. How much money did we waste on the Hillary email investigation? How much money did we waste on the Benghazi thing? How many millions of dollars did we just waste on the House's effort to impeach Biden, and they didn't even do an impeachment vote at the end? Like, it's not even close.
They say, why are there so many former left-wingers turning into rank-and-file Republicans? Maybe I think that they know that you're not a Trump supporter, Kim. I think they mean other people. So I think they're trying to say that, for example, RFK is kind of falling in line and going, what are your thoughts?
Like a lot of Democrats are switching over to the Republican Party. I mean, I think we're seeing a shakeup of the parties, and we're seeing a lot of people from the right, like Dick Cheney, move to the left. Or I wouldn't say right to left. I would say perhaps the parties are shifting themselves. So we've seen, like a lot of the intelligence community, the warmongering community, the military industrial complex, the Dick Cheneys of the world supporting Democrats. And we're seeing people who had previously been Kennedy Democrats now supporting Republicans.
I think what you're actually saying is just there are some people very far on the left who are anti-establishment, who hate the United States, and these people find themselves in easy company when it goes to aligning with people on the very far right. And then I think that the fact that like the whole MAGA people are generally just anti-establishment means that it's very easy to get anybody else that hates the United States or hates the establishment or takes foreign money from people like Russia or Iran or China to all go and join their groups as well. So I think that it's a pretty easy alliance when you get a bunch of people that hate the state, hate the government, hate the institutions, and are just in general anti-establishment. And they
I don't pretend to know how people are thinking or feeling, nor do I have any desire to insult people.
You don't know what people are thinking or how do you make comments on anything publicly?
I'm not going to sit here and claim that all of these people hate America when they're participating in the democratic process. I'm not going to make those types of characterizations or call them basket of deplorables or do any sort of insulting of my fellow Americans because they're participating in democracy and they decide that the person that you want to vote for is not who they want to vote for.
Okay, well, that's great. I will call out people who I think take money from other countries and they don't declare it. People like who worked under Tenet Media, other people that are still operating in this media environment, people like yourself probably. I think it's worth calling those people out when they have other kinds of allegiances to other countries.
Are you claiming, are you making did you just say that I'm taking money from any other, what did you just say?
Probably, almost assuredly, yes. And then number two, I think that it's worth calling out people that I feel have anti-American ideas. So for instance, when Donald Trump says he wants to destroy the Constitution or suspend the Constitution, I think that that's worth calling out. The Constitution exists above all three branches of government.
You're a piece of shit. Let me just say it. You're a piece of shit. Sorry, you just are. To make that kind of characterization of me, to make a claim that you know nothing about, I've never taken a single dime from any other country, not even this country. I am completely independent. And for you to make that sort of characterization, that sort of slander, that sort of slur right here in front of everybody, you're a piece of shit. And I speak for a lot of people when I say that.
I'm sure you do. And I'm sure they're all flying to Moscow right now, comrade. Thank you.
Because going to this one, George says, does insurrection count as a violent crime? They say, Destiny, what are your thoughts on the Kamala Harris FBI prosecuting the Uyghurs movement for having Zoom meetings with a Russian? because that seems completely undemocratic and anti-free speech.
I don't know anything about that particular issue, so I wouldn't be able to speak on it.
The Aruhus were charged with it's similar to sort of what's gone on with Tenet Media a little bit, where they were accused of being Russian assets, essentially funded by Russia. They went to court. It was the Biden administration that went after them. They went to court and they actually just won their court case. They are found to not be Russian assets at all.
This one from George.
Also, it seems
Connolly
like
says,
so for this Aruhu group, so they were convicted of conspiring with a Russian agent. They were acquitted on one charge and they were convicted of another, so they didn't beat everything, right?
I'm not 100% certain. I believe that they beat their case.
Okay, they were handed a mixed verdict. You sounded very certain, but it sounds like they were actually convicted of conspiring with Russian agents, but they were acquitted of the more serious charge, which would have been acting as agents of a foreign government. So I'm guessing this is a type of FARA violation, but it wasn't the worst type of FARA violation. But.
Yeah, so they had some contact with Russians.
Well, no, it doesn't sound like they just had some contact with Russians. I don't think there's a federal charge for just having contact with Russians. There was probably federal charges, though, relating to conspiring with foreign agents and not making a declaration of that to FARA, which is the law of the United States.
Mm.
they had said after Pearl Harbor, Germany declared war on the United States. They were obliged.
Oh, I see.
Because they had an alliance with Japan.
Well, yeah, and we went to war, right? I mean, we went to, but it wasn't the obligation of going to, the obligation is when you're attacked, your people are attacked, right? Then you do go to war. That is what people do. But the question was whether or not we're obliged to go to war on behalf of another country. We're obliged to go to war on behalf of ourselves. We can then resolve that war or engage in that war however we see fit, whatever we think is the best way to get to the end result that we want to get to. But we're not, my point was, we're not obliged to go to war. We do have agreements. We have NATO agreements, which does make us obliged. At that time during World War II, we did not. So I wouldn't call it an obligation. There are times that we can choose where we think it's in our best interest to go to war, or we think it's a moral interest to go to war, or an ethical interest to go to war, but I wouldn't call it an obligation.
I think that if we want to keep trade free and open like we have for the entirety of the planet, I think that if we want to keep the world at relative peace, which it has enjoyed more than it has at any other point in history under U.S. leadership, I think that we have an obligation both to the entire world and to our own citizens to ensure that that peace stays as well as it can with the United States at the head of it. I don't think that a Russia that has invaded Moldova, that has invaded Georgia, that is invading Ukraine, that deploys its paramilitary to the Middle East and to Africa, I don't think that letting Russia control the world is good. I don't think that letting China, a country that is or is not currently maybe genociding their Uyghur citizens, that has its eyes set on Taiwan, I don't think letting them control the world would be good. I think that for the most part, I think the West has largely enjoyed the U.S. being in charge of things, and I think that most of the world probably enjoys, for the most part, the United States being at the head of things, rather than people like Putin or Xi Jinping.